We're going to now have Kennan definitely say a few words and then wrap it up, and then I'll wrap it up and we'll go.
Awesome. Yeah, we get to go on a walk over to the D School. So Terry was talking about how to make room for humans in ecosystems of homes and building and environments. And I want to talk about how to make room for humans in science. So it was January of 1999. And if I get teary on this, that's okay. I'll get over it. I mean, I'm just giving you a heads up. You don't have to do anything about it. I was on the faculty of Georgetown. I was about 1 year pre-tenure. And by the time I was 21, I'd already worked at Los Alamos Labs and Livermore Labs postgraduate. I was the second woman ever in the chemistry department faculty. And second semester of winter semester, I was teaching a lab class. And Shelley Sanner, who was the admin for the department, a young lady, good friend, came running down the hall, and she said, "They're trying to reach you. They're trying to get a hold of you on the phone." And I said, "Who?" She said, "Well, Shady Grove Hospital." So I left the students in the lab, and it took me a few minutes to get a hold of the hospital. Like, there was this kind of massive confusion. But when I finally did, they said, "You need to get a friend or family member to drive you here." And I said, "I'll get emotional, but that's okay." I didn't. I got in the car myself, eager to go find out what was wrong, and I knew it wasn't good. Whenever they say that, I went to the office. I said, "Call my best friend. Something's really bad." And it was a cold winter January day on the East Coast, and I remember my husband and I had met out here actually. And he loved red-tailed hawks. And I saw all these red-tailed hawks circling. And I just knew. And when I got to the hospital, he had died. He had been on his lunch break. He was in his early 40s. His name was Pete. We had 2 kids, 8 and 13. And he'd had aortic rupture during a basketball game on his lunch break. So there I was with 2 children and a very demanding career. And my whole universe had just shattered. So I sat down with one of the other female faculty members a few weeks later to ask her advice. And she said, "Well, you're pre-tenure. You should go send your kids to live with a relative so that you can concentrate on what's important." And I can actually picture it. It was like this little, the universe just instantly became clear. Because there was no way I was going to do that. So it catapulted me out. And I ended up, I'm a protein chemist by training. And one of the most fabulous things is sequence. And that was the time I had gone to UCSD. Craig Ventnor came from there, and a good friend of mine was one of his close colleagues, and they were doing a lot of sequencing. And in fact, Celera Genomics was happening at that time. I ended up at Celera Genomics. And it was one of the most wonderful times in my scientific career. And it's funny because now I was a widowed mom, 30% travel time, and I had more time to think and more time with my kids than I'd had as a faculty member. Fast forward a couple more years. So at the Human Genome, it was a fabulous project. I mean, Celera really did a bang-up job. And not only that, they had this wonderful tool, hidden Markov models, which allow proteins to self-organize. And so you can make really strong predictions about functionality. Now I'm at Berkeley. I want to do a genome of my own. At Celera, they said, "Oh, we don't really have to finish the genome. It's fine when it's not quite complete." So I got really curious. What does finishing mean? What does it look like? So I got to finish a genome. So I got to explain all of cellular life for one soil microbe. And what I discovered was proteins can self-organize, but scientists aren't so good at it. So as I was creating these models of similar sequences, I was finding that it depended on what, if you were a species, it depended on what sequencing center sequenced you as to what they'd call your proteins. So I made this color map of, if it was sequenced in Japan, they would say it was the alpha subunit, but if it was over here at the Wellcome Trust, it was called the beta subunit. It was a mess, right? And I got really interested in what were the inhibitions for getting to, like Linnaeus did when we made a common nomenclature for species. Well, how come we can't do that for proteins? How come we can't do that in the genomic world? The issues were the interpersonal issues. The issues were the reward structure. The issues were, if I help that sequencing center, I might lose my funding. So I got really interested in the systems of science. And I'm really interested in the systems of science from the human angle, because it's not the technology. That's not what's holding us back. It's just that interpersonal glue. It's having a common goal. There's someone that, Quackenbush, who's at, well, I won't say where he's at, but at a trigenome conference, he said, well, I hate to say it, but we're not here to cure cancer. We're here to make sure we cure cancer. Yeah. But that's not the natural state of who we are as scientists. And I think that's really all I have to say. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Wow.